A bitter family feud over who was the true Mrs. Astor led to the creation of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Caroline Astor, aka Lena, was known formally as Mrs. William Astor. However, in 1887, her sister-in-law Charlotte, who was married to her husband's older brother, passed away. Lena decided that she would now formally be known as simply Mrs. Astor, since she was now the oldest Mrs. Astor and the only one in the family of her generation. But there was one problem. Charlotte's son, William Waldorf Astor, was not okay with this. He thought that his wife Mary should be known as the Mrs. Astor since he became head of the Astor family when his father died in 1890. This enraged Lena, who was not only head of New York's high society but was also 18 years older than Mary. Lena retained that she was the true Mrs. Astor and demanded to be addressed as such. In retaliation, William came up with a plan to challenge his aunt. His father's Fifth Avenue mansion was right next door to his aunt and uncle's. So, in 1890, he decided to tear it down and build a hotel that would be named the Waldorf. At 13 stories high, it was designed to overshadow both his aunt's mansion and status. For a year, Lena had to endure loud construction noises, and after it was completed, she was no longer living in a quiet neighborhood. The Waldorf became a huge success and was New York's latest sensation. The privacy that she held dear was yanked away as she now found herself living in a busy commercial area that was both noisy and crowded. About the Waldorf, Lena famously stated, "There's a glorified tavern next door," and by 1891 what started as friction turned into a full-blown bitter family feud. William Waldorf decided to move his family to England to try to avoid further conflict. And while he was in England, he decided that he wanted to disappear from the public eye after being involved in such a public family squabble. So, in the summer of 1892, he decided to fake his own death by having his staff leak to American reporters that he had died of pneumonia. This is one of the telegrams that was sent to America for the press release about his death, but it was quickly found out that he was still alive and he was mocked ruthlessly by the press. In 1897, Lena's son JJ persuaded her to move so he could build an even more luxurious hotel next to his cousin's. So, Lena built a double mansion at 840 and 841 Fifth Avenue for her and her son to live in. Her old house was knocked down to make way for this bigger, grander hotel. They called their new hotel the Astoria, and it was 3 stories higher and 100 guest rooms bigger than the Waldorf. The two hotels eventually merged in 1897 when a long corridor called Peacock Alley was built to connect them, and thus the Waldorf Astoria was born. The hotel thrived and was designed to cater to the needs of the wealthy upper crust of New York. It was the first hotel to offer electricity and private bathrooms. The Waldorf also became world famous for its fundraising dinners and balls, including the controversial Bradley Martin Ball of 1897. The Empire Room in the hotel quickly rivaled famous restaurants Delmonico's and Sherry's. And just look at this gorgeous Louis XIV style ballroom. In 1929, the Waldorf Astoria was knocked down to make way for the Empire State Building. It moved to Park Avenue, where it has been since 1931. William Waldorf stayed in England, where he eventually became a Viscount and opened another Waldorf Hotel in London. J.J. Astor sadly passed away in the sinking of the Titanic. And Lena Astor cemented herself in Gilded Age history before passing away in 1908 while still living with her son J.J. on Fifth Avenue.